about 2 weeks ago, like we said, the federal government, through the Minister of Finance and the coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edu, debunked, some claims that it plans to increase VAT, the rate of value added tax from 7.5% to 10%. The minister put a statement out through the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onaniga, that's to the President, explaining that the tax system is built on 3 pillars: tax policy, tax laws, and tax administration, emphasizing that these elements must function cohesively to establish a robust system that strengthens the government's fiscal position. So, well, we want to hear from the man himself, if it is true or not, because we heard him say something like that. Mr. Oyedele, is the federal government planning to increase VAT? Or, better put, has your committee made a proposal, or will your committee make that proposal for an upward review of value-added tax?
Thank you very much, Kofi Patel. Yeah, so I think it's been an interesting couple of weeks for us. Understandably, the Nigerian people are, the level of trust between government and the people is quite low. So we don't take anything personal when people sensationalize what we're doing or when they misinterpret. We think it's our duty to try and explain. First and foremost, the message put out by the Minister for Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy is correct. So it's not a government plan to do anything to VAT. So people tend to, there's always a mix-up between the work of our committee and what government is doing. So we're people who have been asked to help our country, and we're putting proposals together until those proposals have been given to the government, and the government has approved the proposal. The government has no plan because they haven't planned to do anything. It's us working on those reforms. And the reason why we thought we should engage with the Nigerian people before proposing to the government is that you want to build up by way of consensus and explain to the people what you're trying to do. So essentially, the government is right to say they have no plans to increase VAT. But it's also right that our committee is working on a VAT reform. So this is just one of the many taxes and other fiscal areas that we are working on. It's not only VAT, we have reforms around companies' income tax, personal income tax, withholding tax, excise duty, stamp duty. So we're looking at all the major taxes in Nigeria to reform it. But so what are we proposing? So for VAT, currently the rate is 7.5%, and it applies to so many things, including some basic consumption like some food item, including education, including healthcare, including transportation, including, in some cases, accommodation. So when we did our analysis, we found out that the average household in Nigeria spend 82% of their income, 82% on this basic consumption, and many of them attract VAT. So we said to ourselves, you cannot be taxing poverty. So our proposal is to actually reduce VAT on those items that constitute 82% of what the Nigerian household consume. In fact, by the time you go to the lower end of the ladder in society, they spend their entire income on these items, right? Because it's an average.
What sort of items are we talking about here?
So we are talking about food. And the list of food items is over 600. So you can't even begin to start listing them. So whether it's gari, to bread, to yam, to beans, so food just to be able to survive. Then when it comes to education, whether it is, elementary, whether it's call it primary, whether it's secondary, whether it's tertiary, right? Whether it's private, whether it's public, we just think that education is so critical. When it comes to healthcare, it doesn't matter where you get your services from. We think you should not have to pay tax on healthcare. When it comes to transportation, the only one that we are not exempting from tax is, if you hire a private car, right? For us, we think any shared passenger transportation, you get into a bus, you get into Molue, you get into, even intercity, you get into even an airplane where, you share with other people, because some of the airlines, initially we had said to ourselves, let people pay, taxes on flying, but the airlines are almost dying, so we looked at those essential consumption and we are reducing the taxes in many cases to 0%. And in other cases, we are exempting VAT completely, so VAT will be nil. So we think that anybody that is reporting our work objectively, if you want to do a balance, if something is on 82%, you are reducing the tax, and then on 18%, you are adjusting the rate upward, you shouldn't say we are increasing VAT rate. You should say we are reducing it because 82 is more than 18%. So this proposal we have, we've discussed it extensively with the private sector, manufacturers, chambers of commerce, small businesses. By the way, our committee has all these private sector associations as part of the membership of our committee. So it's a very large committee where we consult a lot. We've discussed all of these with them. Today, businesses have to pay VAT when they buy assets for their businesses. Like you build a factory, you buy a laptop, you buy a car for your business, you pay VAT on it. Our proposal says you get your VAT back 100%. Companies today pay for services, whether it's the services of a consultant, of an auditor, and they pay VAT. We are saying businesses should get their VAT back 100%. So under our proposals, businesses will carry zero burden of VAT. So which means their cost of production of goods and services will come down, and then they can pass that on to the consumer by way of lower prices. In addition to that, we have small businesses that we believe should not bother about charging VAT. We are proposing that any business that has 50 million naira revenue in a year or less should not have to charge VAT at all. It doesn't matter what they are selling. And we think this would even not only make it easier for them to do their business, it will make it easier for them to attract more customers, because instead of going to a 5-star hotel to buy a meal and pay VAT, I'll go to Mama Put's and buy a meal and not pay VAT. So we also have many states where, in addition to VAT, they have other forms of consumption taxes. They call it consumption tax, entertainment tax, events and center levies. Our proposal is all of that should discontinue because it's multiple taxation. So overall, our proposal is meant to make the lives of the vast majority of Nigerians easier. I would say 99.9%. So the headline of just saying we want to increase VAT rate is actually based on the fact that when you are developing a policy, you have to balance the books. This is done everywhere in the world. By making all these exemptions on food, education, healthcare, transportation, rent, we are losing, by our analysis, over 60% of the VAT revenue will disappear. You can't run a government like that. So if you want your tax system to be progressive, those who have some ability to pay a little bit more, we have to pay a little bit more. So you don't have all of this subsidy that we are providing on this basic consumption funded only by the government. So we can get some of us who have the ability to pay a little bit more, also support in providing the subsidy.
Oyedele, give us a breakdown of the items that will be seeing an increase, the 18% of the items that will be seeing an increase in VAT, and what rate is being proposed?
Yeah, so that's a good question, even though it's difficult to answer, because normally what you do in a VAT system is very similar to import, HS code. You have a list of items, and sometimes, when the central bank said they have lifted the ban or the restriction on 43 items to assess FX in the official market, everybody saw 43 items. By the time we spoke to customs, those were 1,300 items. In terms of the code. So what we are talking about here, we are talking about over more than 5,000 items altogether that are liable to VAT one way or the other. But I'll give you an example. You buy a mobile phone, you have to pay the new VAT rate. You buy a car, you have to pay the new VAT rate. Bear in mind that all of these items, if you are doing business, you pay the VAT and you get it back 100%, which you are not getting today. So today you pay 7.5%, you don't get it back. Whatever the rate is, you pay it under our reform, you get it back 100%. So in fact, businesses are very supportive of what we are doing. We had an engagement where we had over 300 businesses represented, CFOs, the people that do the numbers. And by the time we're done with our engagement, they were praying for us and saying they hope that government would, approve our proposals. By the way, these proposals we put out there, we still have to fight to get government to approve them. People don't realize that. It's not like government is so happy with everything we have proposed and they can't wait to approve it. We still have to convince the government. But we think let's convince and explain to the Nigerian people first. And once we agree, then we go and propose this to the government for implementation. So whatever you can think of that does not fall under food, that does not fall under education, that does not fall under healthcare, that does not fall under transportation, that does not fall under accommodation, then the VAT rate will be adjusted. So what rate are we proposing? So we're proposing a rate increase from 7.5% to 10% by 2025 if our proposals are approved. And that rate goes up to 12.5% by 2026. Now, even though your focus for this conversation is on VAT, like I said, this is more holistic than just VAT. We are proposing a reduction in companies' income tax over the same period from 30% to 27.5%, and then by 2026 from 27.5% to 25%. So company income tax rate would also come down to 25%. In addition, personal income tax, all these PAYE that people pay. So we think that people who earn about 70,000 naira or less in a month should not pay any PAYE at all. And those who earn more than that, between that amount and up to about 1.5 million naira a month, will pay less in PAYE under our proposals. And then those who earn more than 1.5 million a month will pay a little bit more. Again, just to balance the books. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a situation where government has no revenue to manage the economy, and they resort into printing money, which will create more inflation and put more people into poverty like we have seen over the past few years.